Welcome to Center Stage, a series brought to you by theWORKBOOK, spotlighting the most innovative people and technologies shaping the future of film and television. I'm your host, Trevor Fox, and I'm thrilled to be kicking things off from right here inside one of the most cutting-edge environments in the industry, the LED volume stage at Versatile Media in Vancouver, BC. Today, we're diving into how virtual production is not just the future, it's already changing the game. I'll be speaking with Steve Reed, founder and head of studio at Versatile Media, and Jace Barrero, CEO of Big Picture Cinema Group. We'll also have Raphael Godin, virtual production supervisor, joining us as well. Steve and his team have created something truly special with this stage, and we're about to find out exactly what that means for creators, actors, and production teams alike. This is Center Stage. Let's get into it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for having me as well to this incredible space. This is awe-inspiring.
Yeah. It's quite something when you first walk in, I think.
It's mind-blowing. It looks like absolutely like completely real. If this part of the room wasn't here, I would think I was actually in Nepal right now. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a 16th century Japanese courtyard.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. How tall is this stage, by the way?
It's about 30 feet height and about 87 feet diameter.
Oh my gosh. How long did it take to build this?
It was probably, what, 5 months?
So about, between, I would say a bit more like 6 months.
Yeah.
The actual build.
A lot of the R&D was done up front in terms of which panels and how we're going to put the tech together and all of that. But the actual construction itself, about five to 6 months to build it.
Wow. What was the inspiration to take on such a huge undertaking?
I think we'd just seen where the industry was going, and you know, I think film is always challenged by locations and getting there, especially if the short scenes that you're filming can be very expensive to set up, do circus, do, you know, all your trips out there. This can offer certain sort of opportunities to reduce costs on production, but also do more. I think the biggest selling point behind a tool like this is giving the director and DP the control to see a final image. I think green screen can be more challenging to work with.
The big shift is really trying to get the final image on the day, rather than having to go through green screen and post-production eventually.
Yeah.
So there was a big push when we built the stage to really have this to work, so that, you know, it also makes sense for the time like COVID, people couldn't really move, and like the going on location was a big thing.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, I see many different use cases that are not just about replacing the background, but we can talk about it like later in detail. Pardon?
So this is more cost efficient in many respects.
Can be, yeah. Not always. It depends how you approach it and what you're trying to achieve.
Just logistically much easier for productions to just come into a sound stage and like have multiple different, locations that we can bring them to.
And that's a trend we're seeing in the industry. Budgets aren't as high as they used to be. People are trying to find ways of lowering production budgets. And so that seems to be a focus that we've really been pushed towards, if we didn't really focus on it as a start point when we were R&D. But it's certainly become a key factor to what clients are looking for.
Absolutely. So, I mean, like obviously with things like Marvel films, you know, they're multi-million, like hundreds of 500 million, or I don't know what, the budgets are crazy. So, I mean, like obviously, like to your point, that the productions are becoming a lot smaller, and that, that's sort of changing. The landscape is shifting at this point a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked on both styles of productions. We've done your $300 million Apple shows. We've worked on productions like Final Destination 6 that's in the cinema right now.
Right.
We've done the big, higher budget shows, but we also just wrapped with Big Picture, a low budget feature film that had a great cast.
Yeah.
But that sort of put a lot of pressure on the production to be as streamlined as possible. Every dollar counted, so.
Yeah, no, even those big shows, I think we're seeing a tendency for going small and nimble. Like even those shows like start to, want the flexibility of it, rather than going and trying to do, maybe half a page during a day. They come in here to really have efficiency.
Correct.
That's true for like very high budget shows.
And the key factor we're starting to see now, which is shows that are in second season for TV, or if there are locations in a sequel or a prequel that's being developed, if they have big sets they'd previously built, they'd LiDAR that data. when you're going into a new season, the cost of rebuilding that can be huge. And so the volume could be an opportunity there to bring alive those digital versions of the previous sets that we used in other seasons, and look at how we can sort of bring those worlds back to life, but at a fraction of the cost of physically building that set again.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. How does this compare to, say, something like what Jon Favreau used on The Mandalorian?
Well, the technology is evolving a lot.
It's actually in concepts very similar.
Correct.
It's just, you could say this is like a new iteration of that for multiple reasons. Some of them are software, some of them are hardware, some of them are just the sheer size of this and the way, you know, the seating's been rigged, and it's just we're just bringing more tools to the filmmakers to really use that stage in more creative ways.
I think no two volumes are built the same. And so, I think what they did as an iteration and was really sparked interest across the industry. And I think that they're evolving what their tech is. We've been doing the same thing. And I think anytime you go to work on a volume, it will not be the same experience you had on a previous one. And that's the learning process that we've been.
It comes with a lot of requirements that people need to understand, and usually people come to this stage for specific requirements that they have. Usually it comes down to size, and I'll give you an example. Some shows want to shoot 3 cameras at the same time without having to redo the take. So if you want to do shoots simultaneously, you need the size because your cameras are going to cover like many different angles, and you need to have enough real estate on the wall to cover every angle.
Yeah.
So that's one of the considerations, but there are many others as well.
Yeah. I mean, we have to be flexible. Every production that comes in will want to utilize the technology in a slightly different way. The fundamental basics to what we're doing are the same, but the details of the creative process they're trying to secure from it require us to do further R&D.
Actually, every single show we've done required some amount of R&D of something that we haven't done before, and it keeps coming at us. I mean, I think it's also like the filmmaking in general like throws curveballs at us, but technology wise, it's there's always something new to be done for sure.
Yeah.
And we keep doing that.
I think that's because we're a creative driven industry, and technology has to be subservient to that as a process. And so when the creatives come in and they want a certain thing, that's what we have to deliver. And that's what we've really been doing with our crews and this technology, is trying to find the most diverse ways that this could be utilized to achieve the end goal specifically that production requires.
Right, absolutely. Tailoring for each production.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how they want to use it. Yeah.
Wow. So what kind of cameras are necessary to shoot and blow up an image this size? Do you need to shoot on 8K, or can you shoot like on a 4K, or does it necessarily matter?
The camera itself doesn't really matter as long as it's a digital camera first, and that it can support what we call the Genlock process.
Yeah.
What that means is that the shutter of your camera is synced to the LED panels so that they can flash at the same time and have like an image that's correct.
Okay.
So if your camera supports that, you can come in the stage and point your camera at it, and you'll have something that looks good.
Oh, wow. So I could technically shoot something like on my iPhone, or is like, how does that?
An iPhone doesn't have a Gen.
Oh yeah, shoot. Okay.
It has to be a big enough, sort of an expensive enough camera to include a kind of Gen.
But that would be a challenge for our team, but I think we could make it work for lower grade cameras as well, because our panels are quite specific in the way that they refresh very fast, which means that if they refresh fast enough, it wouldn't matter if they're synced together. So we could probably do an iPhone. We would do a few tests with this, but I think it'll work actually. It's it all comes down to the balance between the technology and what the end result is supposed to be. So it's like you said, creative versus tech, and we try to make it work for every project.
But pretty much every major camera in the film industry we've shot with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you shoot all the background footage, or do people bring that into you to work with, or like how does that exactly work?
There are two major sort of components there. One would be just background plates, which is shot video footage. I think this can play back at what's the biggest we've had on here, like
in terms of
scale of freight of footage. About 18.
Yeah, we've done a 16K playback here. Oh wow, which is that's taking the entirety of the stage, and it's like a dome, and we played it all back at the same time, and that was one of the challenge we went through. Actually.
And then the other way would be using a game engine. We use Unreal Engine, which is mostly adopted across the film industry.
That's been used in video games for many years.
Correct.
Which iteration of Unreal are you working with at this point?
The latest version. We stick as the current builds come through, and we have to do a bit of R&D with each release, but nothing that's sort of too stressor.
No, totally. Like we actually have a crew of technicians that come from all these different industries. So our team is really like a melting pot of talents that come from gaming, come from hardware engineering, that come from visual effects as well. And everybody's got a very different skill set, and game engines are one of them. And it's definitely something that's a key component to what we do here. Because I would say about 80% of all the projects we receive here are running through Unreal.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of game development actually in the back to make sure this is.
Car driving is probably the main reason that we would go ahead and do video stuff.
Yeah.
But once we're out of car stuff, which is really the lowest hanging fruit in virtual production, I think if you was to do a poll on who's used virtual production and what doing car driving scenes is probably the low hanging fruit that productions have gone for. But once we get into using a camera on stage and building sets and in the foreground, then you really need the game engine, because that gives you parallax. And what that means is when you move the camera, the environment will shift and move in line with your camera. And that's when the illusion of just a flat video wall will completely disappear and you are in a full 3D environment. And
that's incredible.
we kind of blend the physical foreground sets with the images in a game engine in the background. And the key component there is really blending from your foreground set to the image in the background. And that enables you to sort of create that invisibility between the two worlds, the physical and the digital, to get the end results that your DPs and directors are trying to do.
That's also usually why people want to come to this stage, is to have access to this technology, like the Unreal, full-on tracking, CG environment type of thing. I would say like plates are more, popular like on smaller stages.
Yeah.
Where you have like a wall and you're doing, driving sequences and stuff like that. But usually our clients mostly come for the real deal, like the full-on blown virtual production.
It's a very updated version of what Kubrick did on Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise on the treadmill. It's like that was very 1999 version of what you guys are doing now. So it's incredible to see such a leap in technology and what you're capable of now.
Actually, I mean, panels have been used a lot in film history. Like Mandalorian was the first to do it at the scale they did. But, LED technology has been used as back projection technology in feature films as early as sort of late 90s, even in some cases.
Right.
Much smaller use cases for it.
Sure.
I think Oblivion was one of the first to also adopt it in
that was
feature
back
film.
projection actually, but like the way you project some background has been around like for so long, like just even like back in the.
Lauren Hardy was doing it.
But what's really new is the way that we know exactly at every point where the camera is in space, so we can project the right perspective on the wall, which gives you that illusion that you're actually there, rather than looking at a flat wall.
Yeah,
that's what really makes it virtual production.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Versatile has stages in China as well. How do the international studios connect, and are there creative or logistical benefits to having that global footprint?
Actually, there has been a few times that we've had projects that are filming in China that then wanted to come particularly to Vancouver. We've sort of helped between the two locations. Most projects tend to find a home and a base and sort of stay, but the technology we're using is identical across, maybe not identical, maybe different panels in certain circumstances.
Sure.
But as a general process and pipeline, we sort of work together and sort of collaborate on building the new advances that we're sort of pushing towards.
Very cool. So two very different industries. Like the requirements of projects in China in general is very different from our clients here.
Absolutely.
In terms of timeline and quality control.
One of the key things we have to do is collaborate with many other vendors and service providers. Put my phone down. I'm so sorry. We have to collaborate with lots of different service providers, which means operating with other companies and making sure we can move data to each other efficiently for the benefit of the production. So that's a big consideration that we go through. Our sort of head office in China tends to take an entire production in. I mean, they have 6 volumes, of which some of them are even 2 or 3 times bigger than the volume we've built here. And then, a multitude of sound stages. And sort of, what we have in Vancouver is 2 sound stages. It's big enough for a feature film with location shooting and partial shooting in either sound stages or inside a volume stage. But yeah, so different industries, but the same approaches and technologies, but they do feel as, they operate differently as industries, I think.
For a producer walking through Versatile for the first time, what are some of the most common questions that you might get, and how might that differ from some of the questions you would get from a director?
It's actually interesting because I don't think any 2 productions are really the same. I mean, they're using certain industry tried and tested techniques and workflows and crews. But every production that comes in does want something different, and they want to use it differently. It depends on the DP, it depends on the director, what the challenge is. And so I think probably logistical are the bigger questions.
I should say it's probably not about the volume what they ask. It's about how much space there is and how can they move the entire production here.
Yeah.
Because it's a big deal for a production that has like a home base to come here to shoot, I don't know, even a week. It's you have to move everybody and stuff like that. So it's really about the facility more than it is about the volume, I would say.
And that was one of the considerations when we built it. The reason why we put a second stage there and didn't just do one stage isolated on its own is, we understand that productions want to use the technology to their advantage, but to do that, we have to also look at the traditional ways of doing things and make sure that we fit in correctly. And so having a stage that we leave as a traditional sound stage next to here, we've done everything from used it to build sets that we then wheel into the volume as more efficiently, or we've actually used it as an actual separate stage to film in. And partially the sets were built here and filmed here, and in the afternoon they're going into stage 2 where they're filming another component that's using more sort of traditional or green screen approaches. So we have to work with how the industry operates. And I think that's a huge consideration.
Everything is project based, and actually it's very common. We've done a lot of, 2 units shooting at the same time under the same roof. One of them on the volume and the other one on stage 2. We even had like smaller walls that we built specifically for that production.
Yeah.
And they were all going on simultaneously. So it's about flexibility. It's about trying to, accommodate your client as much as possible.
Are there any skill sets that an actor needs to have that might differ from what they would have on a traditional stage or on location? Is there anything that they should know? Anybody watching?
Matter of fact, I think it's actually probably easier than shooting in front of a green screen. So they have something to act to, whereas like with visual effects and green screen, they had to imagine more, I would say.
Right, like the new Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
It's like acting just to imagine there's an alien here, right? Which is much more difficult.
So you remove that from the picture now.
Right.
They actually can see the alien.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
actually,
that's nice.
Usually we get really good feedback from actors, because they really like being able to, they see it as a stage play almost.
Yeah. I think when you're doing LED walls and you don't have a ceiling, you don't have sound issues. In a volume like this, there's a sound consideration, hard surfaces everywhere that's seamed off. So echoing can be a challenge, and that adds a bit of drama to the sound department. So we're just making sure that they're capturing audio that's coming across, and occasionally ADR might be necessary.
Okay.
But certainly the benefits outweigh the the losses of,
Right.
of a process. And I think most actors have come in, have actually appreciated being able to see the environment around them that they're performing against.
Oh yeah, it's not having to imagine things is it
Correct.
just takes, all the heavy lifting out of it.
Correct.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
What's next for Versatile? Do you have anything that you're able to talk about that you're working on, or anything that's coming down the pipeline that people can be looking out for?
Well, we're always looking at if there's an opportunity to put a stage somewhere else. That's definitely one of the elements in terms of growing our technology and our footprint across Canada, US, and even starting to look at Europe now. Um, I think AI is a big part of what we do too. We think AI complements the technology that we have right now, in particular in sort of building assets and developing worlds.
Because the stage is one thing, but virtual production is a whole process that starts really in pre-production, where you have to build or process or create the content that will get displayed on those walls. And that's kind of like this is the tip of the iceberg, but there's like a lot of work that goes, at Versatile before the shoot. And that's where we see like the most amount of like technological leaps. AI is one of them, but there's, every day there's new techniques that we adopt to be faster or like create like content that better quality. Currently it comes from very different parts: hardware, software, tech.
And I think traditional VFX companies were always separated from principal photography. You'd have a VFX supervisor on set, but they were sort of seen as completely different processes.
Right.
I think this technology blurs the line between those, and I think AI accompanying how we can just do things faster with smaller crews, higher quality, I think is a big driving force for us. And as an organization, I think embracing AI
Yes.
is really something we have to do.
Exactly. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you'll be left in the dust.
Correct.
Right? Yes.
Correct. But I don't think it really changes the fundamental basics of how we use this type of technology for it.
It's a productivity booster to us more than it's a replacement to how we do current stuff.
Yeah, something you can help generate backgrounds or things much more easily rather than
Correct.
having to go and animate and doing all this stuff that's going to take much longer.
Correct. And I think a lot of that's down to the fact that filmmaking is a creative process with different specialist minds coming together. Your director, your DP, your production designers, three major creative influences over something. And I think, a lot of people look at AI as to whether it's a push button solution. And I feel that there's a lot missing from that if it is just one person feeding information in. I think the collaboration is where the magic of filmmaking happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's such a great use of AI. I mean, a lot of people want to use it to get rid of the creative process, and I think that's why wouldn't you do that? That seems like
I want AI to do my laundry.
Yeah, please do my taxes for me, please. That's like, I don't need you to do the fun stuff.
Yeah, I don't want it to do my creative work.
No, that's what I'm alive for. Yes,
Correct.
that's what we're here for. Exactly. Yeah, right. Do you have any advice to up-and-coming creatives that are sort of circumnavigating this ever-changing landscape?
Interesting.
Look, the technology changes very fast, even for us. Like just keeping track on everything that's happening is a full-time job for sure. My advice to creatives is to really embrace it, because usually, we get challenges when people just tip their toe but don't really embrace the whole process of going and shooting on volume, and they come in with their ways of shooting a scene or so on, and this technology, as amazing as it is, requires a bit of a shift in terms of how you think a scene and how you organize your day and approach it on every level. It touches really every department as well.
Correct.
The screens, we have to talk to the camera department to do this differently now. And I have so many other examples for everybody on set is involved with it. So my advice is to trust us and like go and go with it, like really.
I agree. I think it's don't be scared of the tech. I think at the end of the day, it's just a tool. You still need your lighting crew. You still need your creatives in here. And it's that collaboration of people coming together that's going to get you the result. The first day that anybody shot on a volume, is always a little bit of a concern, especially productions, as a whole tend to come in a little concerned about whether they can achieve what they've got. The moment they've shot on it, everything tends to relax and they start to realize some of the benefits. And in fact, most productions that have come in have tended to sort of initially start off with small components they wanted to use. And once they've shot those, they've realized a few extra potentials and have embraced it within their production much more. That's the experience that we've been finding. So I think don't be scared. It's just a tool. And, but it does, to what Rafa is saying, it does require some level of respect. It has to be treated like a department along with your other departments in a production crew. And it needs preparation. And if you go about it the right way, you'll have very successful results.
I think it'll get better in time as well. Like what we were saying when we opened the facility is that nobody wanted to be the first to do something. Once you start showing examples of stuff that's been achieved to the level of quality that they want, people get more confidence, and eventually what we're seeing is that it's really easing out now. People are really, every crew that we see here, somebody has some volume experience and they shot somewhere else on volume and is starting to be part of the landscape for sure.
We're now joined by founder and president of Big Picture Cinema Group, Jace Barrero. Jace, how are you, my man?
Great, man. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you so much. So how did you start collaborating with Versatile? How did that come about?
We met Steve about a couple years ago when we were first looking into a film Night Comes that we were, kind of trying to figure out where we were going to shoot it. Originally, the film was going to be shot in practical locations. It's very forest-driven, and a lot of it was exteriors. And then somebody brought up the fact that there was this great volume stage here in Vancouver. So, we were very curious. The volume stage was still, I think, in the process of being put together at that time.
I think, it was at the point where we were near finishing.
Yeah, and they were starting to do some demos. And so Steve and the team invited us in. They did a demo, I think, based on this scenery here. And I came in and we were just completely blown away.
Yeah, I think Jace and Big Picture had already committed to Night Comes to produce it. After they'd seen the volume, we sort of had some ideas. You sent the script. I really liked it. I thought it was a really fun kind of story. And then we just started to talk about if Versatile was going to get involved and how we could, and sort of pull the script apart, look at locations and see where our facility could help on the production.
Yeah, the great thing about Steve and his team, especially, Steve is the head of the studio here, is that, they don't just get involved as service providers, but they are here to offer solutions and creative solutions as to what we can do and how we could do it. And so it kind of gave us answers to questions that we didn't even know we had. Right. And it opened up a whole other world of how we could produce this film and make it even better than we had planned it to begin with.
So you started Big Picture last year and you already have, ish?
Yeah, it was a couple years. I mean, we started kind of, it was very well planned because we did it during the strikes. But it gave us a good time to kind of set our infrastructure up and, get prepared for the films that we were going to produce. So we already kind of had a slate. And great partnerships to what we wanted to do. And so as soon as, the strikes were over, we were off to the races.
So you have some stuff in development right now, post-production and things are in development?
We do. We have 2 films in post. We have Night Comes that we just mentioned. We have another very funny comedy, the Marshmallow Experiment, that we just wrapped a couple weeks ago. And that one is now in post as well. So some pretty cool stuff coming for 2026.
I'm excited about that one. So the Marshmallow Experiment is based on an emotional intelligence experiment on children.
That's right. Yeah. Originally, there was an experiment in Stanford in the 1970s where they essentially, put toddlers on a chair and they offered them a marshmallow and said, if you can wait 10 to 15 minutes, these are scientists, we'll come back and we'll give you more marshmallows, 2 or 3 marshmallows. And it was all about the ability to retain satisfaction or gratification, right? And essentially, what the study said is that the kids that ate the marshmallow right away they were probably going to become losers and fail at everything at life. And then the kids that were able to wait, they would find success and great love and a ton of money. And that was a study back then. So the film centers around this young man who, feels like he's destined to lose and never go anywhere. And, he starts the film off by saying he's definitely that one marshmallow kid.
The fact that you were able to extrapolate that into an entire film and make it look so incredible. The trailer that you showed me just looked amazing, and you've got an incredible cast. And yeah,
the film is hilarious. We had a great time shooting it, all of us. I think one of the biggest problems we had was that while we were filming, the director and the rest of the crew kept laughing. So we'd have to reshoot the scene because people were just laughing out loud.
People are breaking.
Time.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, so we have an incredible cast, led by Steve Buscemi and Daphne Keane, Sam McCarthy, of course, Josh Lucas, Miss Sarah Chalk, and Johnny Knoxville.
Oh my God, what a lineup. That sounds incredible. I can't wait to watch this. So with a facility like Versatiles, how has your creative approach evolved? Are you writing or conceptualizing differently now that this sort of environment is available?
I feel we do have to conceptualize it differently once we come in. And look, like many other producers and directors, there's skepticism coming into anything new, especially a new technology like this. And so the first, I think, feeling and emotion is like, well, no, why? Maybe we don't have to. And then you come and you experience it, and you sit down with the team here, and that's when you get that aha moment, like, wow, the integration between the LED screens and the real world, it flows and it works. And then it gives us that sense of, well, now we have the ability to relax into this shoot because we're controlling the sun, we're controlling the daylight, we're controlling the environment. Like, we do live in Vancouver, which can be, the weather can be, a little bit bipolar. It'll be sunny and then it'll start pouring rain 2 minutes later. So the fact that we were able to know that our days were safe and we were able to shoot day for night, night for day, and things of the sort, it just opens up like a whole world of possibilities about what you can really do here on the stage.
Do you think that you'll be wanting to use it? I mean, it probably makes your job so much easier, to your point, that you'll probably want to be using it for all of your productions moving forward, I assume.
100%. I mean, we try to, not just our productions, but we have a lot of producers reaching out to us from outside of Vancouver, asking us what we're up to and how we've made the last few films that we've done. And I always tell them I feel like I work for Versatile because I'm always singing their praises and say, you guys have to come shoot here. It's great. So
To give you a check, yeah.
I'll send them a bill later.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I expect. Oh, promo.
That's kind of true. I mean, films are made in prep, right? It's like you've got to plan correctly. And I think the moment, we like to get involved early. So getting a script, reading it through, planning to producers, the directors, how to dissect the film, where does this make sense, use the technology around for what it can really deliver in value. And then, shoot traditionally where it makes sense to do that. And I feel the great relationship we've had is that sort of open transparency. We sort of read scripts, notes, creative notes, technical notes. We then sort of work on the budgets even together to a certain point, and then just try and find the right way to make the most of really for the film. It's that's the core value here is we're trying to make the best film we can, and
We're creative partners,
Yeah.
right? So it's not about, I think I kind of addressed this a little bit earlier on. You're not just hiring a stage and, these guys come in and they assist you in constructing every single element of the film, not just what's shot here, but what's shot outside of the volume, because what's very important to them is the integration of both worlds.
Right.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Do you think that at some point this will end up becoming the norm for most people? Or do you think that it seems like with the ease of use and everything, it's just like you said, especially in Vancouver with the weather being so temperamental, it could eventually be something that a lot more people end up using.
Well, look, if you're trying to create a world that you can't get to, you can't build, you can't,
Yeah.
without a doubt, you have to shoot it on the volume stage, right? But then there's also, the situation where, as I mentioned before, sure, we can go shoot out in the forest, right? But why when we can do it here? These LED screens are so amazing.
Right.
You know, I said it before. I came in here going, well, no, I'd rather shoot it in the bush. If we're going to shoot in the bush, let's shoot it in the bush. If we're going to shoot the ocean, let's do it in the ocean. And then they shut me up every time because they prove me wrong how good they are at what they do.
And why risk your cameras getting ruined out in the forest? I mean, like, you know, rain
It
and
was
bears.
just such a relaxing setting here as well, you know? So once again, there are instances where you do want to shoot everything practically,
Correct.
of course, but then it's important as a filmmaker to make sure that we have the integration and it doesn't feel like, oh, well, that's a stage. This is not a stage, right?
Right.
And it happens when you're set building as well. So as a filmmaker, you're always concerned about where that separation is, and it just doesn't happen here. The integration is beautiful. So
What kind of stories do you hope Big Picture will be telling in the next, say, 5 years?
we're very agnostic in the stories that we like to tell. As you know, we just did a thriller, horror, jumped into kind of raunchy comedy, which and next we're looking at a couple more thrillers and action movies that I'll tell you about sometime soon.
That sounds great. I look
But
forward to that.
yeah, we have some very exciting things in the works right now. For us, it's about making the type of movies that we love to watch and the things that get us excited, and so we're indie filmmakers in an indie landscape, which of course is not the most simple landscape, recently, but to be able to construct worlds and then make films and tell stories with this new technology and things of this sort, it really makes what we're trying to do and the things that we're trying to create so much easier and achievable for us.
I think that might be our time right now. So thank you so much for having me here and allowing me to come and speak to you. It's been really illuminating. You guys are both awesome, and it's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, really, really cool.
Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Center Stage. Big thanks to our guests and to Versatile for having us. If you enjoyed this deep dive into virtual production, you won't want to miss what we have coming up next month. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time on Center Stage.